Hello, everybody, and welcome to the final thing that we're going to be doing for Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. I'm joined today with these two wonderful people, Matt and Patrick. These are both colleagues of mine. All three of us work for Mind and Mid Hearts, and it's been a real privilege to have been on this journey this month, growing moustaches together, which look incredible. I have to say, you all look fantastic. You both look fantastic. I don't look fantastic. I hate it. And also my wife absolutely hates it. It's just been amazing to have done this together. But today is obviously the last thing we're going to be doing, being really open about our personal journeys, our personal stories, reflecting on what it's been like this month, growing the moustaches and being open about our mental health and how that may have impacted others. We can talk about, I think, Matt, you're going to talk about the money that we've raised so far, Patrick talking about what you want to talk about today, and myself as well. I think it's going to be a really fun conversation.
Really, I'm really looking forward to it. You know, it all started with this idea of combining our passion for raising mental health awareness and men's mental health kind of in general. Mixing that with something quite fun and meaningful, like growing the moustaches, obviously.
Yeah.
Craig suggested, not just using this month to share our own experiences, but to actively support Mind and Mid Hearts, who we all work for, to help keep supporting people with their mental health. And already we've raised about over £900.
Yeah, just over £900 so far. Yeah,
which is incredible.
Yeah.
So thank you to everyone who donated. And it's just incredible to see how much support we've kind of received from everyone.
Yeah, it's been really, really phenomenal. We've also been trying to broach those conversations around mental health with men. That's been a kind of personal challenge and motivator of mine. I've witnessed firsthand how difficult some men find opening up about their mental health. And, I'd like to, use this opportunity today, but continually challenge kind of societal pressures that men face to bottle up their emotions and encourage people to start talking about it.
Yeah. And what is it that you really want to talk about to get today from your own personal experience?
So I'd like to talk about how fatherhood has impacted my mental health, and also how supporting somebody with their own mental health struggles has kind of impacted me.
What about yourself, Matt? What is it that you'd like to talk about a bit more openly?
So for me, it's kind of raising awareness of, the kind of struggles that I've had through kind of depression, OCD, anxiety, and just, hoping to raise that awareness with someone that might, be thinking of not coming forward about something like this and speaking to someone, and just showing that, people aren't alone with these kind of things.
Yeah, so true.
And there are places they can reach out to and people they can reach out to.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's very similar for myself, but it's obviously with my physical illness, having Crohn's disease and how that's affected my mental health, and being really open about that. And, there's not such a thing as being sometimes too open about these things. I think by being that open, actually, it normalizes the conversation. It normalizes the issue and the physical illness. So I'm going to try and be as open as I possibly can about it, and how it affected my mental health, because physical illnesses really do impact your mental health, and some of the coping mechanisms that I use to try and ground myself a little bit and remind myself that it's okay to feel the way I'm feeling. So so obviously, like we say, the month is coming to a close. It's all ending on the 30th of November with Mental Health, which is a 5K fun run. There's still time to join if you so wish to. You can go to our website, mindandmidhearts.org.uk/mental-health to sign up, or just find out a bit more about it. As a fundraising campaign, we've raised quite a lot of money with that. All of the money that we're raising through the men's mental health stuff is going towards mental health, which obviously goes towards mine and mid hearts as well. But that collective total so far is over £3,000, which is seriously good. That's going to make such a difference. And just one key fact that I just want to put out there as well. Since 2019, so 2019, 2020, Mine and Mid Hearts has seen a 150% increase in the number of people needing our support. Like, that's just an incredible percentage of people that need our support. And by doing these fundraisers and raising the money, it will make such a difference to our ability to help all these people that need support. So that's one of the real basic reasons why we're here today doing these things, obviously to break that stigma and be open and get more people talking, but that's going to increase the number of people that need our help, isn't it? So, we really need to raise those funds at the same time and increase that funding to allow us to help more people.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah. I think I've covered everything. I think we've covered everything from that introduction. Shall we have a little bit of reflection then on what happened during Men's Mental Health Month? I think obviously we went and got our beards shaved off. We went to some local barbers. Big shout out to the alternative barbering company that shaved my beard. Do you want to give a shout out individually to the barbers that shaved you guys off? Shaved your beards off?
Yeah, definitely. Shout out to London Road Barbers and Mo in particular, who firstly, I think did a great job changing my beard into a ridiculous mustache, but also was so open, with his own mental health experiences. It was like a privilege to talk to him. Yeah,
and shout out to the guys at Auburn Barbers for, giving me the old trim as well. Had some good conversations about, societal and kind of cultural kind of implications of, men's mental health.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
And did you guys ever have anybody come up to you and talk about the moustache to begin with, knowing that it's November and that generally that means Movember, and want to be more open with you about their mental health? I think, Patrick, you may have said that someone definitely did that.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that the mustache attracts a lot of attention.
Just regardless.
Yeah. So generally, perhaps that was also a challenge for me this month, was having the spotlight kind of shone on me. More attention than perhaps I would want, but it certainly opened up some conversations about mental health, particularly at the gym that I go to. Some of the guys told me about their mental health struggles, and it was almost like a window in to the conversation. So yeah, really amazing that it actually had that impact.
Yeah. And was there anybody here as well that we supported that opened the conversation up for both of you at all? Or?
So there was in one of our groups, one of our attendees was just like, what's going on with the moustaches? Like, what's all this about? And, that opened up that conversation. Well, it's Men's Mental Health Month. I'm not sure if he was aware that it was Men's Mental Health Month as well, perhaps. Right. I think that might have come into it as well. So yeah, it's just nice that people are quite curious about it and kind of like, because obviously for us, it's a little bit out the ordinary.
Yeah.
Especially for you two coming in beardless.
Yeah.
But it's a good instigator of those kind of conversations, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I've had, friends come to me and talk to me a bit more about their mental health and whatnot. But I think today is like, because you don't see this much, like people say they're going to go out and they're going to raise awareness, but they don't have the open conversations. And I think that's where we want to kick off here a little bit. And I think, Patrick, if you're okay, we can start with you really and talk about maybe whatever you wish to choose, just where you want to start really. Maybe around fatherhood, how that's impacted you in any way, shape or form, obviously positive and negatively, if there has been anything like that. I know for myself there has, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I think fatherhood is for me a good place to start. I think it has been as single events go, like the kind of single biggest impact on my mental health. certainly for the positives and also the negatives. One of my friends described fatherhood as like opening a Pandora's box, where there are all these emotions, or perhaps intensity of emotions, that we can't know until we become a parent. And once that box is open, there's no putting the lid back on it again. And so you get with it the extreme highs and joys, but also some real tough moments. And that has been my experience. I think the first year in particular of my daughter's life was tough, like really, really kind of pushed me to my psychological limit, perhaps. I think in terms of the stress, the sleep deprivation, trying to work as a couple to get through that, trying to keep a human alive. And then the joy, though, I do want to stress the joy that has come out of it has been like remarkable. It really has. So, but I think, yes, it's important to talk about something that is so life-changing for so many people. I know you've also become a parent within the last
6 months.
6 months.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. And it's crazy to think that it's gone so fast. 6 months already it's baffling to me. But yeah, I mean, it's been an absolutely roller coaster of a ride, and the build up to it, I mean, that was something else. Like, you think you know what to expect. You do all of the antenatal classes. You go and do other things. You read books. You watch YouTube videos as much as you can, but nothing really prepares you for that birth experience, I guess. And being a birthing partner is an extraordinary thing, and you've really got to be supportive, and you feel guilt at the same time as when everything's happening, that you're not able to do anything physically. Almost like you can be there, you can try and help. Moral support. You can direct things in a certain way and whatnot, but physically, seeing that your partner in pain, and how to deal with that is really tricky, and that's quite emotional draining in those moments, and that for me was the biggest shock, I think, of the entire experience so far. I always knew I wanted to be a dad, and I was really excited to meet Elsbeth, and when she was born, like, it's just been amazing, and it's been really difficult. Like, there's been real challenges, but definitely the hardest part, I think, was that birthing journey, and how emotionally draining it was. It was scary. It was joyful. It was just everything rolled into like a number of hours. Like, it was incredible.
Roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah. And no matter how much you read, no matter how much you're told, like, it just doesn't prepare you. I don't know how you felt about that.
Well, very similar. I was wondering, did you feel that you had anybody to talk to after the birth about, witnessing your partner in that pain? And but it's almost like a pretty traumatizing experience.
Yeah, no, I like there was and there isn't. Like, you do the antenatal classes, you do build up a bit of a rapport, but by the time everything happens, like, you don't really think to go back to them. You find it difficult because you're not as close as you think you might be straight away. I think it's only now, 6 months after Elspeth has been born, that we're actually starting to build true friendships with the people that we joined on the antenatal groups and stuff. Some of the friends that I have, like, very close friends, haven't been in the position that I've been in. Some of them have, but like maybe one or two. But I don't know. I didn't think to reach out. I didn't think to talk about it, and I don't know why that was, really. Yeah, and maybe I should have. Maybe I should have connected with more people that have been through it and been able to talk about just how scary some of the moments were. And I mean, there was a moment where Elspeth was literally about to be born, and but they couldn't find a heartbeat with the stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
I can see this. Charis couldn't see this, and they start wheeling in like the crash packs and like all of the support stuff that they would need to revive her.
Right.
And like that moment was probably the most scariest moment of it all.
That sounds terrifying.
Truly was. It's obviously turned out that she was absolutely fine. They just couldn't get a reading properly, but they really tried to mitigate the situation and tried to be like, yeah, it's fine. But they were really panicking in the background, really. And I could see it. Charis couldn't, but oh my God. Yeah, that was really,
wow,
really something. Yeah, that was tough.
That's, really scary. I just had a thought that the fact that we work together for a mental health charity, both have young kids, and the fact that we never, until now, we never talked about the birth. So what has prevented us from doing that? It's interesting.
I think there's this almost taboo subject to really going into detail about it. I mean, maybe not with people that have experienced it, but actually like sharing with people that haven't experienced it or are about to experience it. You don't overshare too much because you don't want to worry people.
Yeah.
But actually, you're right. Why didn't we talk about it? It doesn't really make much sense, but it's almost like we just thought not to talk about it.
You guys had a few discussions beforehand, didn't you? I seem to remember.
We did.
Because you were particularly worried, I seem to remember, about the whole prospect of fatherhood and just like, I'm going to be a dad in like a couple of weeks' time. And
yeah. But I don't think we ever went into like complete detail, like what to really expect. And I think maybe you were holding back a little bit because you didn't want to worry me, or I don't know.
For sure. That has been on my mind when we were talking, or I talked to other parents to be. There is a question of how real should my should my kind of feedback be? I mean, there's the question of why hold back. It's something for me to consider, to be honest.
I suppose there's a fine line between helping and causing more kind of anxiety, perhaps.
Yeah.
I guess it's just opening up with that person and being like, setting some kind of boundaries almost with what they want to hear, perhaps. Maybe, I don't know, so you can kind of gauge.
I mean, it's just being...
Maybe.
Just saying...
Being mindful, innit?
Yeah, just being like, how much do you want to know? I can tell you everything, or I can hold back some of it. Like, for me, that I'd love that, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
To have the offer.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
The information's here if you want it.
Yeah, exactly that. I think that's really good. Patrick, you said in the introduction that you've had to deal with helping manage someone else's mental health as well, and I don't know how open you want to be about that, but is that a good segue into that now, or?
Yeah, well,
or did you have
the birthing partner experience is certainly one of being in a supporting role, and my first exposure to mental illness was through supporting my partner. It was a whole world which I'd never learnt about. Certainly weren't taught about it at school. I think I was lucky in that I did not have any, at least, diagnosed mental health issues growing up. So I had a kind of ignorance to those struggles that some people have. And so through being in a relationship with somebody who struggled, I had to, I guess, teach myself about their experiences, become far more empathetic and compassionate. And I'm so glad that I've gone through that, because I think it's given me a bit like a more informed view of others. The fact that people experience the world very differently to me.
Yeah.
It's been it's really been wonderful, and I think also there is I'm kind of reluctant to use the word, but burden to supporting somebody with ill mental health. Of course, there's no blame attached to that, but it's just that sometimes it is it's tiring, it's emotionally draining, and I guess part of me wishes that I'd had more support during that to talk to maybe other people who are supporting those that were struggling.
Yeah.
Rather than muddling through on my own, because it did feel, or it has felt isolating at points.
Have you since seen that there is support out there for those that are helping and caring for those that have mental health struggles? Is there anything out there?
It's a really good question. I think because I work at a mental health charity where everybody supports others with their mental health, the support network I have is amazing. It's really remarkable. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the support options are like for those that are not already kind of in the system, as it were. I don't know if you guys are aware.
So you've got some organisations like Carers and Hearts, for example, who are really, really good at supporting, families of people who they're supporting, whether that's in a paid or unpaid kind of carer role. Do kind of support groups and like forwarding, signposting, and just giving those people a little bit more support. They're really great charity.
Yeah, see, that's really great to hear.
I've had a couple people that I've supported who've actually used them as well, and have said, really good.
Yeah,
amazing.
So there is stuff out there for people for sure.
Right.
But like you said, there's also like family, work, friends that can kind of support through that as well.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, I think that that's been a significant, I guess, challenge for me, and my kind of third section that I wanted to talk about was the stigma that men face generally around, opening up about their mental health. I think that if the conversations had been normalized in my childhood, I would have been so much better equipped to support my partner, to deal with the challenges of parenthood, just to generally be a better person,
100%.
more attuned. So, I guess I wish that it became a standard part of education. There's a a GCSE in mental well-being. That would be really amazing. I mean, did you guys have any exposure to mental health before having your own experiences?
So school, not really much. Like we didn't have, at least to my knowledge, there wasn't, counselling services that schools have got now. They've got kind of internal kind of support and that kind of more like pastoral element. Don't really remember that being a thing. At least I wasn't aware of it to know to kind of engage with it, if that makes sense. It was only up at kind of uni that I was aware of these kind of internal support systems that they've got, counselling or kind of coaching, whatever.
Yeah.
So that was really the first time that I kind of realised that, mental health support was out there, Didn't even know about Mind and Mid Hearts until just before I started volunteering here.
Right.
Obviously, about kind of community mental health, but at the time you kind of think, oh, that's impossible to get into. You need to be like really ill, or you need to be this, that, or the other to kind of be eligible for that.
Right.
Yeah. If that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, massively. I mean, I think for myself, obviously, I don't want to go into too much detail just yet, but having Crohn's, I mean, I was diagnosed with that at 15. So it's been more than half my life. But nothing was ever offered to me in terms of mental health support. There was never it goes hand in hand that there might be some mental health, ill health that goes alongside that, having a physical illness of such magnitude. And never offered to me in that sense. Nothing at school really spoken about. I think it just wasn't even a subject that people realised was a thing.
Right.
Yeah, it's only, I think, more recent, in more recent years. I say more recent years. One of my best friends, David, he very openly struggles with. He was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. I think that's the diagnosis that he had at the time. I don't know if that has changed in terms of what we call it now. I think it has. I should really be up to speed on that.
Even that's a controversial one.
Yeah. So apologies. But I helped David in his recovery journey. I mean, it's always going to be, he's always in recovery of sorts. And he and I experienced a lot of struggles in that journey. It was very difficult to be friends with somebody that was so chaotic almost.
Right.
But we got through it by doing lots of different things together. Doing a podcast together really helped him focus on something and be able to channel his energy into something really brilliant. And he's now doing fantastic. Like he now uses the gym as a way of keeping himself grounded and focusing on something. And yeah, so props to you, David. You're doing fantastic. Shout out to you.
Good job.
That's great.
But yeah, I mean, so going back to, obviously, Matt, you saying that there wasn't anything that you saw until maybe university. When did you realise that that you had OCD, for instance? What was that? How did that that come to you? That realisation then?
So from quite a young age, I mean, I've always just been like I was always an anxious kid, you know. And I remember the first time I kind of realised something was up was we were at a zoo somewhere. I can't remember exactly where it was. But, you know, you get those little like petting zoos.
Yeah.
So I was petting a goat or a sheep or something. And I saw this guy, you know, whistling with his fingers. And I thought, oh, I'm going to try that. Tried doing it myself. And then saw this sign that was like, you know, do not put your hands in your mouth. You know, you must wash your hands beforehand. I just convinced myself I was going to die, like for a very long time, you know. Wow. And it was then that kind of like obsessive kind of very irrational thoughts, which now you can look back on and laugh and think, oh, that was, you know, ridiculous to think that. Of course you weren't going to die. They're not going to put goats with kids that are going to kill them or whatever.
Yeah.
But, you know, when you're younger, it kind of convince yourself of that because you don't know anything different. You haven't got that kind of like mental capacity almost to kind of think logically. So yeah, so that was the first time I really kind of had that real feeling of like anxiety and just like, oh God, something really bad's going to happen.
Right. Well, I was going to ask, how did those, you know, the kind of obsessive thoughts then impact your, you know, your ability to live as a child?
So that there was, again, another, you look back on it, quite a funny kind of obsession that I had, where I was convinced something or someone was going to like board me into my bedroom, like just whack some boards on the outside of the door and I wouldn't be able to get out. So I'd have to like go up to the door. You could see there was no boards there, but I'd have to like, you know, put my hand across the door frame just to like double check, you know.
Right.
Just wouldn't go to bed for hours. So I'd be constantly up and down, just thinking like, oh, I'm trapped in. So stuff like that. And yeah, just various, you know, other things, you know, affecting kind of school. I mean, mine, it usually kind of like comes out when I'm feeling really stressed. So like GCSEs was another really bad one. A-levels kind of got worse. And that, you know, kind of affects your school and like you're late for school because you're busy doing some kind of routine or going over some kind of obsessive kind of thing. So yeah, so kind of affected schooling ever so slightly, but we're here.
Well, I think it can affect so many areas of. It sounds like it affected so many areas of your life. It's just such a barrier to being that in that kind of natural child state, which is generally what, you know, an impulsive, free uh, kind of mindset to be in. So yeah, that those barriers must have been hard to just doing what you wanted to do as a kid.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I tried not to let it kind of impact too much, obviously, because it will kind of come in kind of ways, but yeah, it definitely impacts, you know, like you said, that kind of childhood experience and that like innocence. It's like, you know, no child really should be feeling like, oh, I'm going to die.
Yeah. And how did you, what support did you get? And also, I guess, maybe more importantly, how did you learn to live with that or manage it?
So for me, I know CBT isn't to everyone's cup of tea, but worked an absolute treat for me. You know, that I remember, so my mum was actually, you know, very supportive kind of towards like my later kind of teens, you know, because she was like teaching psychology anyway, so she had a kind of, you know, rough idea of these things. So, you know, she'd take me to kind of, I remember going to a talk with some cognitive psychologist at the University of Hertfordshire, just to get a few kind of ideas on CBT and kind of get a bit of like background on it. And then, had some CBT sessions for a bit. And still use those kind of techniques to this day, really. Just kind of, things always pop in, like you never truly, you know, what's it called? Cured of these kind of thoughts, because, you know, they always pop in. It's just realizing those and knowing, you know, oh, it's quite a stressful time at the moment. I need to be like double mindful that, you know, I don't go down these kind of older kind of thought patterns and kind of nip them in the bud a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
It's amazing that you've built those resources to, you know, to continually, I guess, look after and manage your mental health.
Yeah, I mean, it's always like amazing. A work every day, like work in battle for it.
Right.
Well, not battle. Obviously, some days are worse than others.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, it's a constant thing to be kind of like on top of. Which I'm sure is the same with you guys with kind of being dads. You know, there's always days that are going to be worse than others. Yeah. You know, it's never kind of smooth sailing, is it?
No, definitely not. Yeah.
I do think that mental well-being it's a life's work, right? You know, you got to keep putting in the hours and the self-care.
Work in progress.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think you've got to look at every day as a day that you're going to do something for yourself a little bit. Even if like something happens throughout that day, you've got to try and carve out a little bit of time to try and work on whatever it is that you need to work on, because it's impossible to keep going day in, day out, not looking after yourself mentally. And I mean, I'm totally guilty of just, you know, working really hard nonstop and you know, wanting to do stuff. And it's difficult to carve that time out, really. And you've got to prioritize what's right for you, really, haven't you?
That's why I get to the gym at 5 a.m. It's the only time I've got for it.
Wow. I didn't know you did that. 5 a.m.
That's too early.
I mean, you guys can't do that, obviously, being dads. I mean, it's slightly easier for me.
Well, I think that I could, but I shall not be doing that.
I love my sleep. And at the minute, sleep is not brilliant. So
it's a scarce resource for you at the moment.
It certainly is. Yeah, 100%. Matt, you talked about depression as well. What about when did that start for you? Like, has that been something that was quite early on as well with the OCD, or did that start much later? Or?
So it was mostly just the kind of anxiety and anxiety kind of related things up till I think it was around university time. And I think it was just that kind of pressure of, you know, things, kind of life in general was just like relatively simple up to that point. You know, you're doing school, you know, you're working a little bit, getting some money, and then you've got like that grand university kind of milestone that, you know, it's an important thing, isn't it? And then you go, you do that, and it was finishing. I was like, oh great, what am I going to do with my life now? Don't have any kind of like forward plans, or just had no idea really what I wanted to do with life. And I think that was quite, it was quite a kind of heavy pressure on me. And that really did, puts you down quite a dark path of just being a bit kind of like, what's the word? Kind of listless, is that the word? And a bit kind of like, I was just doing like odd jobs here and there, but nothing that was really, meaningful, and thought, oh yeah, I really want to do this for the rest of my life.
Right.
So yeah, that's when, the kind of depression kind of set in a little bit. And I think, I think it comes back for everyone a little bit, doesn't it? When, you kind of see around your kind of life and things that's just kind of a little bit, I'm trying to think of the word. Yeah, I think just listless, I think, is the kind of word for it.
Yeah.
When there's, I think that, in times where like our purpose is not clear, was that
yeah, that's exactly what it's in my brain, couldn't quite.
It's, I think that I've really felt this during the first lockdown, where I was furloughed. I was, pretty happy for the first few months. I've got to say, it seemed all right, but eventually I got to a stage where it's like, what is the point in my life? I need something to get me out of bed in the morning, to energize me, to make me feel like, I'm a worthwhile person. I'm contributing to society. So yeah, it makes sense. And so how did you overcome the, that depressed phase of your life?
Yeah.
So I think it was volunteering here, really, to be fair. You're kind of what was I doing at the time? I was working retail, and again, it was just like, what is the point in this? Like, just selling tat for someone else to make money. And do I have a passion for this? Not really. And I think volunteering just really, I loved who I worked with, don't get me wrong at all. But, it's just, I wanted something with a bit more purpose, And I think volunteering here and then getting into some kind of like paid work here, did wonders, really, to be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so great.
Yeah, it's really great
really
to
cool.
hear. It's really great. And one of the things that we put in our impact report is that the number of hours people have put in volunteering here, and it's something ridiculous, like 4,600 hours. Over it works out to something like 666 days or something worth of volunteering, and it's very clear that this Mind and Mid Hearts needs volunteers to keep it going. It's essential, but it's also, as you say, it gives back to the volunteers as well. So it's so important to not just for the people that are being supported here by the volunteers, but also to the volunteers themselves and what it can do for them.
Oh, 100%. Big shout out to all the volunteers. And even some people that we kind of have here in St Albans that volunteer, and you just see how much it kind of enriches their lives, right? And, gives kind of a sense of purpose when, people might be retired or looking for work, or, really, really important stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Is there anything else, Matt, that you'd like to sort of say about your personal journey at all, or a message to those that are out watching and listening, in terms of getting the support maybe that they may not have thought about until they've watched this?
I think when it comes to OCD and kind of obsessive thoughts, people that I speak to who might have it or have kind of a version of it perhaps always say like, oh, my anxieties are stupid. And, I kind of think, because I thought that as well, oh, it's just ridiculous. Why am I thinking this way? And I mean, they're all totally valid. So that's my message I've got for anyone, you know, any kind of anxiety you've got, no matter how ridiculous you think it is, you know, you were feeling it at the time, like myself, hitting the bloody door frame to think, you know, oh, I've not been kind of trapped inside. That's ridiculous thinking about it. But no, at the time, you know, that was my anxiety. So,
yeah,
you know, just to validate yourself, really. I think that's the main thing that I kind of take from that.
Yeah.
That's a really nice message. Yeah. The emotions are valid.
100%.
And trying to reduce the shame around having those thoughts.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
It's like I say, there's no such thing as a stupid question. Well,
Yeah.
there's no such thing as a stupid anxiety either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Kind of what I think.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. I guess moving on to a little bit about my story then, if that's okay. So yeah, as I said earlier, I was diagnosed at around 15 with Crohn's disease. So that was, again, the stress of GCSE era.
Yeah, classic.
Yeah, and A-level era as well. But yeah, mainly GCSE. And I think that pressure that gets put on by onto young people to do these exams, I think really does exacerbate illnesses and mental ill health and it certainly did for me. That's what certainly triggered something that maybe that was already there. My dad's got Crohn's disease. You know, it's not proven to be a genetic thing.
I was just going to ask, is it genetic?
But I think there are some very clear studies out there that do link it back to genetics in some way.
Right.
And for those of you that don't know what Crohn's disease is, it's an autoimmune disease. It's when your immune system decides to go a little bit overactive, sometimes very overactive, and decides to attack certain aspects of your body. So mine is obviously with Crohn's disease, it's in the bowel. So that's anywhere from your mouth right away down to your anus, which I didn't think I'd be saying that out loud.
Caught me off guard a bit.
But again, let's not so dilly-dally around.
It could be anywhere.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So,
I never knew that.
So it could be ulcerations in your mouth right the way through, right to the very bottom. And so in my experience, it's been sort of located in the small intestine mainly.
Right.
And with that, it just gave me quite a number of horrible symptoms. First of all, was obviously pain. And sometimes that pain was exhausting. It was very intense pain that I couldn't really walk because it was so bad.
Right.
But it came in waves, and sometimes it was rapid waves. So it would reach like a precipice, and then it'd come all the way back down again, and then it'd go back up again. And so trying to deal with that, I'm sometimes trying to live my life normally. I'm going to school, I'm trying to study, I'm trying to do my exams, and I'm sitting there trying to suppress this feeling of pain. And I think there's going to be quite a lot of people that, if they have Crohn's disease and they're watching this, will totally resonate with that, like that feeling of that intense pain, and how do I suppress this? Equally, at the same time, I'm thinking, where's the nearest toilet? Because at any minute, I'm thinking I might need to go, because that's another symptom, is that I'm constantly having these urgencies to have to go to the toilet. And so anxieties start to form around about where the nearest toilet's going to be. Can I go to this place? And I guess actually I became a little bit like, I don't know, hyper aware of where I am, what location it is, like trying to pre-plan as well.
I was going to say, did you have to do a lot of like forward planning?
Yeah, definitely. And but then in a school environment, it becomes even worse, because I'm trying to match my peers. I'm trying to be as normal as possible as well, and hide how I'm feeling. But I think it got to a point where I was like 8 stone and in immense pain, and had to be hospitalized because it was that bad.
Man.
Yeah, so that was quite tough. And again, no real support in terms of mental health.
Right.
No, how can I deal with this from a maybe it's the right word, holistic point of view, in terms of like trying to take a step back and maybe use some mindfulness, or try and do something that like breathing exercises, like those sort of things can really help sort of bring, I don't know, the anxieties down to begin with, and maybe also the pain, subdue the pain. And like the mind's amazing, like it's so powerful. And it wasn't until maybe I was in university that I really started to learn these techniques and really try and but self-taught really. It wasn't something that, you know, I was just trying to feel a way through it all. So that's obviously been a real journey. I mean, for a long, long time, and it's still going on now. Like, I mean, I've gone through a number of different medications, immunosuppressants such as azathioprine, steroids. I've gone through. I'm now on a biological that I inject every 2 weeks. It lowers my immune system, which means I'm more susceptible to getting ill. So, like last week when I wasn't very well, I was more susceptible to catching these things.
So that's to stop your body from attacking itself.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're dampening your immune system to stop you from getting, with the Crohn's disease from attacking itself, I guess, or you're attacking your body. But then you're more susceptible for other things. Right. So you've got to be quite conscious about where you are, or who you're spending time with. I think COVID really sort of brought it to light as well. I think like you wouldn't go into the office if you had COVID, but actually, why am I going into the office when I've got a really bad cold? And I think actually with coming out of COVID, we're now obviously a number of years past that. I think people have forgotten about that, and there's sort of, even myself, like, you know, last week or the week before, I was starting to feel unwell, and I still pushed through. I was like, I have to work, I have to do this. And that mentality, actually, because I've got better in my journey, I guess, and using the medication right, and feeling better in myself, I've forgotten that I should really be more conscious about that. And yes, spreading the germs, I guess, and because you don't know who you're going to come into contact with, who's got a lower immune system. And
also looking after yourself.
And looking after yourself, yeah.
It's, I was just wondering when, from like the age of 15 to kind of university, who did you talk to get that mental health support?
Nobody.
Nobody.
There was no one really I could talk to. Yeah. I mean, my dad understood, I guess, to a point, but we never really had those conversations, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess we're not that kind of family, really. But I think like some of my friends knew what was going on, but I wouldn't be open about like the real true extent of how I was feeling and what I was actually going through, and those anxieties, and always being hyper aware of where I am, and the pain that I was in. They just knew I had Crohn's disease and I looked unwell. And then from a mental health point of view, I guess, no one really. And I think it was mainly the anxieties and like trying to suppress the pain. Trying to use my mind to do that. And obviously that's not really a mental health thing, I guess, but I'm trying to use my mind in a way to mitigate how I was feeling physically. And it does work to an extent, but you're only suppressing like the physical feeling. That it's not really the cure at the end of the day. And
right.
Yeah.
But, you know, it allowed you to survive, right?
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, it's a remarkable defense that your mind came up with. I was just wondering, with, say, your friendship group, what prevented you from talking to them about the mental health impact of Crohn's?
Yeah, I don't know. I think first of all, like there's this taboo around poo, and like we see the adverts. You see the adverts around, like, you know, if there's blood in your poo, you should go to a doctor and all that kind of stuff. But But then I think that was a blocker, first of all, from me being open about what was going on, and
Right.
so those topics weren't weren't broached, and so therefore we never really got onto the topic about how I was feeling mentally, I guess, and like how exhausted I was, and none of that really came on. They just knew I was unwell.
Yeah.
Right.
It just never expanded.
That's understandable. Yeah, if the physical health element isn't even talked about, like how are we going to get into the mental health side of things?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
a really interesting insight.
Definitely, that's definitely how I felt, and I think that still happens really quite a lot today. I think it's still a massive taboo with Crohn's disease, but I think charities like the Crohn's and Colitis Society do an amazing job with trying to reduce the stigma around that, and being more open and sharing people's journeys around that. And so yeah, big shout out to them. And I just want to sort of say as well to those of you that are suffering with Crohn's disease that there is moments in your life where you will feel better. There will be a medication that works for you. It is a lot of trial and error, but eventually you will get there. And if you are struggling with your mental health, get help for that as well, because it will help with the physical illness side of it as well. Like I maybe was quite resilient in the sense that I built up these coping strategies, this mind over matter kind of feeling, this breathing techniques, this is going to be okay in the moment. I'll feel better soon. I can work with it. Like those kind of worked for me, but there'll be other people that are like, I can't do with this anymore. And there were definitely moments where I got to that point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm too much pain to think about anything. Like but don't give up. Like there is something out there, and there are people you can talk to, whether it's here with us or the Crohn's and Colitis Society. Like there are places where you can talk openly about how you're feeling. So do it. Yeah,
it's really, really nice message. And did you want to? I know that I talked about my parenthood experiences before, but would you like to share some of the impact that that's had on your mental health, or maybe linked to Crohn's as well, if there's been some I guess interplay between those two?
I can imagine there would have been some interplay, right?
Definitely. I think one of the core symptoms of Crohn's disease is fatigue. Like that never seems to go away at all. And so having a baby, you get very little sleep, especially in the early days, and still now, to be fair. Like sleep is definitely one of the things that we crave the most. And so tiredness and fatigue is constant. And so trying to manage that and be present as well. You want to be present for your partner, for your baby, but when you're so tired, it's like, how do I do this? And I don't really know how I've coped with that, to be honest with you. I've just pushed through, and it's like, I know this will be better at some point.
Yeah.
How do you still or did deal with the lack of sleep and coming to work as well? Like, I mean, I've got work, I've got managing my illness, I've got dealing with the baby and personal life, that kind of stuff that's really difficult to all manage. But for yourself, how did you manage all of that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Knowing that it's temporary helps, and parents of of young kids, actually mine and mid-hearts, were great at reassuring me. I also read in the early the early weeks or months of Rosie's life, Viktor Frankl's Man's Search of Meaning, which I really recommend. It's a phenomenal book. But there's a line, and maybe I can look up the exact quote and we can post it afterwards. But it's around like being worthy of our suffering. And so Viktor Frankl kind of preached. He had an experience in the concentration camps. I think he went to Auschwitz, as like one of the many camps that he was sent to. And what came out of his experience was we can choose how we think about our suffering. And there's nobility in kind of bearing our suffering well, or having a kind of positive perspective about it, or a resilient perspective about it, perhaps, rather than positive. So I know that my experiences are nothing like his, but whilst I was, trying to get Rosie to go to sleep at 3 a.m, I would think to myself, or I'd ask myself the question, am I worthy of this suffering? Which, I mean, it put a little bit of a smile on my face, because it kind of got me out of the, kind of ridiculous of the moment. And I thought, you know what, there's a greater cause here. My daughter's well-being. I want to make sure that she feels comforted, and actually I'm going to, I'll put my needs to one side. So the suffering is worth it. Yeah.
That's really great.
That helped me.
It sounds like what parenthood is, just putting your own needs to the side.
Yeah.
Right?
Hopefully temporarily.
Yeah.
You certainly,
not too much longer.
you certainly have to prioritize that being, that baby, that child, whatever, that you have to, there's no choice there. But then you've also got to look after yourself in some way. Because if you can't look after yourself, or you're not looking after yourself, you can't look after your child. And it's really difficult to balance, isn't it? We balance so much in our lives these days in this modern world. We've also got social media that plays a massive part. That almost becomes another entity almost in something that you have to manage on a daily basis. And friendships and work life and so many things, so many inputs that you have to input to. I think sometimes you've got to take a break from a bit of it and try and just find yourself.
What I've loved to see is when both of you with your respective wives have, gone out, just you guys, to do some kind of date night, or going away for the weekend or something. I'm just it's nice. Doing something for yourselves.
Yeah, I mean, we've done that twice.
Get the grandparents involved.
Yeah.
Done it twice.
Yeah, we've only done it twice since
Really?
Elizabeth's been born. So that's, twice in 6 months. We've gone out, just us two. One was on our anniversary, and another one was we just need to do this. We need this now. It was worth it. And then we got unwell. And so we've been unwell, I guess, since then. So that's 3 weeks on and off. But you know what? It's all worth it. Like you say.
Those moments are special. They're really good when you do prioritize, either ourselves or the relationship. It's really nice. A little bit few and far between, but it's nice when it happens.
Yeah. There's one thing that I've really struggled with parenthood, and that's actually feeling guilt for going to work and being able to step away from the situation, I guess. And Charis stays at home. She looks after Ellsworth. And she's doing an amazing job. But I feel guilty that I'm not there to be able to help in any way. And that guilt builds, I guess, day on day almost, because I can see how much the toll it takes until we get to the weekend and I'm able to assist a bit more. Or it's real. That's been one of the biggest challenges, I think, is that guilt, that feeling of not being able to be there. And in a modern society that we live in these days, I wonder can we be more flexible with this somehow? And I know with my role here, I can be a bit more flexible. I am allowed to be a bit more flexible, but there are definitely, other jobs out there that you can't be as flexible. It's quite inflexible. And it's, how do they deal with those situations? And I feel very privileged that I can be flexible, but it's, that guilt really, it's massive.
Yeah. I can relate to it. I think that we're kind of put in a difficult situation where, we need to earn money to survive, or, to have a good life. And so there's, I guess, expectation I think my own expectation, but maybe also society's expectation that I would go back to work. I had 2 weeks paternity leave, and it did not feel great just leaving Louise to do the full-time parenting.
I bet that was especially difficult after being around for 2 weeks, and then suddenly
it's like, this is how it's supposed to be.
We're
we're supposed to be here helping out, and then and going back to work also offered many positives for me. I know that it is a strong factor in allowing, a parent to reclaim their identity, so that they have an identity beyond just being a parent, which is really hard for mothers to reform. There's this term matrescence, and I think to a lesser extent patriescence is the fatherly equivalent. But yeah, no, it's like it's a difficult one to solve.
Yeah,
really, really hard.
I think it's just the flexibility which is important, right?
Yeah.
And if you need to go home, help out or whatever, then there's kind of the scope to be able to do that.
Yeah, and with my role here, it's I can go home and work from home, and that's been very good. So I can help out if I need to, but I find that by coming here as well, I can be Craig, the digital marketing officer. I'm not just the husband and dad that has to help in some way. I can focus a bit more on what I'm doing here, and what I want to do here is obviously make a massive impact. I want to be able to reach as many people as possible, and like from what we're doing today, hopefully we'll reach a lot of people, and even if it's just one person that watches this and they go and seek some help because they realize that actually I do need to be open a bit more about my mental health, and that'd be great. But yeah, but the guilt sits on me every day, I think, really, in terms of, there's that part of it, but actually Charis doesn't get to be who she once was, and she will never be that person again, and I will never be that person again either, but I do get to step away, and I've been able to step away quite early on and remind myself as to who I am and what I do, whereas she hasn't had that opportunity.
It's a really, really, I think it's like a significant point to raise for sure.
Yeah.
Matrescence and patriescence.
Yeah.
Good words.
Yeah.
On the words of the day.
Word of the day. Is there anything both of you would like to say to those that are watching finally, to sort of round this off somehow, that some sort of inspiration to help those that might need to go and seek some help, and just final thoughts?
Well, I think, there are plenty of people out there to listen, whether it be, us, the NHS, all these organisations that we've spoken about, like Crohn's and Colitis, Carers in Hearts, there's a whole directory of support out there in Hertfordshire. It's just picking out the right one and finding the right one, which can definitely, it's overwhelming for us sometimes, isn't it? With all these different organisations out there, you're like, oh, which one's the best one? So there's plenty of support out there. And I think, reaching out is the hardest thing. We see that every day with people that come into our service, and, I always like, thank people for reaching out, because it is the hardest step of it all. And, fingers crossed, it's usually an easier kind of journey from then on. So, that's what I've got to kind of say on that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would echo that. I would encourage people to take a chance and put themselves out there, show some vulnerability. I hope they'll be pleasantly surprised by the feedback they get or the response they get. I think that my partner Louise took a chance when she opened up about her mental health with me, and it changed me for the better. I'm really grateful that she felt comfortable to do that. It really opened my eyes to a world that I knew nothing about.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Craig, do you have a message for the viewers?
Yes, I would say if you're unsure about anything, how you're feeling, or or you're feeling unwell in yourself, there's something not quite right going on, either with your mental health or physical health in some way. Go and speak to your GP to begin with, and start the ball rolling, and try and find the help that you need to get yourself feeling better. There's especially with men, there seems to be this lack of wanting to go and talk to the GP or just seeking that help in general. But it's so important that we do go and seek that help, and the sooner you do it, the better you will feel. It's that saying of like when you share how you're feeling, it's like a weight off your shoulders, and it genuinely is. Like, if anyone's experienced bottling something up and finally sharing it, and you finally get it off your chest, it's such a relief. And I genuinely mean that. Like, if you've never done that before and you've been bottling something up, just the GP is a great place to start. Or you can come to us, or our friend Google will certainly direct you into the right place if you put in there what you're feeling and support and where you are. Those 3 keywords will direct you very quickly to the right place. So, I guess are we rounding this off now? Is there anything else anyone wants to say, or are we happy to round it off?
It's been a pleasure chatting with you guys today. Yeah. I mean, I've worked with you guys for a fair bit of time now. Feel like I know you even better now.
Yeah. This has definitely bonded us a lot closer, and thank you, both of you, for everything you've done this month, and for joining me on the moustache growing and wanting to be part of it. It was a bit of a last minute harebrained idea of trying to do something that made a difference, and I can truly say I think we've made a difference in some way, even if it was just for one person. But I mean, with the money that we've raised as well, thank you so much to everybody that's donated to our Just Giving page. It's really appreciated, and let it be known that it will make a huge difference to what we're doing here. There is still time to donate. You can do so by going to justgiving.com / I think that's right, justgiving.com / pages / Craig - Matt - Patrick. I think that's right. There'll be a link somewhere in a description of some sort.
I'm impressed if you got that right.
Yeah, me too. And obviously, Mental Health, our flagship fundraising event for Mind and Mid Hearts, is happening on Saturday, the 30th of November. That's at Oaklands College, St Albans. You can sign up to participate in the running. That's £10 for adults, £5 for children. And there is still time to set up a fundraising page if you want to, but don't worry, you don't have to. Just the paying for the ticket itself is enough to sort of a contribution to the cause. And if you just want to come along and support, that's free. There's no entry fee or anything like that. There's going to be some great games going on. There's food, there's drink, there's merriment, there's Christmas celebrations. It's a great way to start the festive season, I guess. So, thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.